The two easiest muscles to find are the one on the top of the thigh and then this great big one. So you have this muscle, and the one that's sitting on top is the tensor fascia latae, okay? Latae. And so we disconnected it so that we could pick it up and look at some of the ones below it. So there we have that first top one is the tensor fascia latae. The next great big muscle back here is the biceps femoris. And after the biceps femoris, we see one coming around from the other side, and that is the semi-membranosis. All right, so we got those three. If we look up above your tensor fascia latae, there are two muscles up here. One is on top of the other. So what I tried to do was separate them, and you have one round muscle on the buttocks. Does everybody see that one round muscle? There's another muscle sitting on top of it, and then there's that biceps femoris. So the muscle that is under the biceps femoris that comes out from it, that's on top, is the gluteus maximus. It is on top of, so maximus, on top of the gluteus medius. Okay, so you have a gluteus medius, a gluteus maximus, a biceps femoris. You have a tensor fascia latae. And if we pick this up, the tensor fascia latae, I'm gonna move him around, and notice that you can see the tensor fascia latae from the inside as well, from the medial side. So what they did was they had their gracilis down in place. That big gracilis was in place, and the tensor fascia latae was in place. So they opened up the gracilis, and they pulled back the gracilis and pinned it out of the way. So now we can see the muscles that are underneath. So then we're going to take this tensor fascia latae, fascia latae, pick it up. And there are going to be three different muscles under here. Can I pick this up? Yeah, so it don't hit your face. So this is underneath the tensor fascia latae. Thank you very much. The one in the very center is the rectus femoris. Okay, and then you've got a muscle on each side. These are those two vastus muscles. So if this is the rectus femoris, the one to the medial side of the rabbit is the vastus medialis, and the one that is on the side of the rectus femoris that sticks to the outside is the vastus lateralis. So you've got your rectus femoris, the muscle on the side of the rabbit, it's on the lateral side of the rabbit of the thigh. This was the rectus femoris, you have the vastus lateralis, and then on the medial side of vastus medialis. The tensor fascia latae. You're gonna put that down, and it's in place. All right, the other thing that you were supposed to learn were these thigh muscles. And if I start down here, we've got a really super huge muscle, right? And it's separated, and then there was a smaller muscle right here. Well, there's one coming out from behind. So remember, this one coming out from behind that we can see is your semi-membranosis. Okay, we saw it on the other side too, but that's the semi-membranosis. This really huge, large muscle is the adductor magnus. Awesome. And then the next one that's smaller than the magnus is the adductor longus. And then the next one is an adductor, but what is it? An adductor brevis. So think of magnus is the biggest, correct? This one's long, so it's going to be the longest, and then the tiny one is called the adductor brevis. Brevis is short. So adductor magnus, adductor longus, adductor brevis. All right. There's one more in here we got to look for, and pectineus. So we got to look way up in here after that adductor brevis. There is a little tiny muscle way up in there, and that little tiny muscle. I don't want to know if anybody's bleeding. That one is the pectineus right up in there.
So the little tiny one.
The little tiny one.
Okay, so it goes from largest to smallest. Got it.
Are we okay with that?
Yes.
And then if you come back here, what was this big calf muscle?
It's the same thing as our calf muscle.
Gastrocnemius. If I pick up that big calf muscle and look underneath it, there is a smaller muscle back up underneath there. And what is that smaller muscle? Sartorius. Okay. And then the one, I don't think it's separated on this one. There is one that sits right on top of the tibia.
That's the tibialis cranialis.
Tibia cranialis. Yeah. Okay. And then the one right next to the tibia cranialis is the digitorum longus. Okay.
Which one's the soleus?
We have what?
Oh,
Yeah. I think it is on there. You have to know the soleus.
so it goes gastrocnemius and then.
Gastrocnemius is this great big muscle. Great big calf muscle is gastrocnemius. And if we pick that up and look, it was really easy to see on that, the one we just did. There is there. It's just not separated yet. Let me get it from this side. It has.
Where is his ears? We chopped them off because they're in the way. I was gonna say.
They don't put up with that.
Don't play.
No,
Lola is now earless.
she should have cooperated.
She got the chop.